The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien beings from across the galaxy gathered in floating pods that circled the central speaking platform. The air hummed with the sound of translation, devices working to convert hundreds of different languages into understandable speech. Ambassador Zelthax of the Corvani Empire stood at the center podium. His tall, thin frame was covered in blue scales that shimmered under the bright lights. Forearms gestured wildly as he spoke to the assembled crowd. His large black eyes showed worry as he delivered his report. "Fellow council members," Zelthax began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "For the past 6 months, our deep space monitoring stations have detected strange signals from the Outer Rim territories. These signals are unlike anything in our databases." The crowd of aliens murmured among themselves. Some looked concerned, while others seemed bored. The Galactic Council had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They were used to discovering new species and adding them to their empire. Most new civilizations were weak and primitive. They either joined willingly or were forced to submit. High Chancellor Vexstar of the Ethereal Collective floated forward in his crystal pod. His body was made of pure energy contained within a translucent form. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "What kind of signals are these, Ambassador?" Vexstar asked. "Are we dealing with another primitive species that has just discovered radio waves?" Zelthax shook his massive head. "No, High Chancellor. These are advanced propulsion signatures. Someone has achieved faster than light travel. The energy readings suggest multiple vessels, possibly an entire fleet." This news caused a stir in the assembly. Fleet Admiral Kreshtar of the Corvani Warfleet leaned forward in his military pod. His species looked similar to Zelthax, but was built for war. Thick armor plates covered his body, and his claws were longer and sharper. "Have we attempted contact?" Admiral Kreshtar demanded. "If this is a new military force, we need to assess the threat level immediately." Zelthax pulled up a holographic display that showed the outer rim of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations where the strange signals had been detected. The pattern showed the mysterious vessels moving in a systematic exploration pattern. "We have followed standard first contact protocols," Zelthax explained. "Observe first, then make diplomatic contact once we understand their capabilities. However, our scientists are puzzled by their technology. The propulsion systems appear to be primitive by our standards, yet they are achieving remarkable speeds." Dr. Morden, the Council's chief xenobiologist, activated his speaking platform. His species resembled a giant jellyfish with dozens of tentacles that constantly moved as he thought. His voice was wet and bubbling. "I have reviewed the astronomical data for that region," Dr. Morden announced. "There is only one system capable of supporting complex life. The locals call it Sol. However, our classification system lists the third planet as completely uninhabitable." "Uninhabitable?" Vexstar questioned. "Explain." Dr. Morden's tentacles writhed as he accessed his data files. "The planet designated Self-3 is what we classify as a Class 12 death world. The surface gravity is nearly twice what most civilized species can tolerate. The atmosphere contains poisonous gases. The weather systems are extremely violent, with massive storms that can destroy entire continents. The planet experiences regular ice ages that kill most life forms. Volcanic activity is constant. The local star produces dangerous radiation levels." Assembly fell silent as Dr. Morden continued his report. "Most disturbing of all. The planet is home to millions of predator species that actively hunt and kill other life forms for survival. No intelligent civilization could possibly evolve under such conditions. It is simply impossible." Ambassador Zelthax looked confused, but the signals are definitely coming from that system. "We have tracked 3 distinct vessels leaving Sol and moving into deep space. Perhaps they are refugees," suggested Counselor Yithrin of the Peaceful Collective. "Her species looked like giant butterflies with rainbow-colored wings. Maybe they escaped their dying world and are now searching for a new home." Admiral Kreshtar growled with amusement. "If they survived on a Class 12 death world, they are probably desperate and dangerous. We should approach them carefully." "Far." Away from the Galactic Council chamber, 3 human spaceships move through the darkness between stars. The EU's Liberty, commanded by Captain Jake Morrison, was the largest of the 3 vessels. It carried a crew of 200 humans on their first major exploration mission beyond the solar system. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the vast expanse of space through the main viewing screen. Man with short brown hair and steady blue eyes. Years of military service had given him a calm confidence that his crew respected. Navigation. What's our current position? Morrison asked his helmsman. Lieutenant Paul Davis checked his instruments. We're approximately 47 light-years from Earth, sir. The Freedom and Endeavor are maintaining formation at 2,000 kilometers distance. Morrison nodded. The 3 ships had left Earth 6 months ago with orders to explore and map new star systems. So far, they had discovered 12 planets that might support human colonies in the future. It was exciting work, but also lonely. They were further from home than any human had ever traveled. Communications. Any word from Earth? Morrison asked. Lieutenant Amy Foster shook her head. Nothing, sir. We're too far out for normal radio. Contact. The next scheduled check-in isn't for another 3 weeks. On the EU's Freedom, Commander Lisa Brooks was reviewing astronomical data with her science officer. Brooks was a short woman with red hair and green eyes. She had earned her command through 15 years of service in the Space Navy. Commander, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures on the long-range sensors, reported Dr. Kevin Miller. It could be natural phenomena, but the patterns look almost artificial. Brooks studied the data on her screen. Artificial how? The energy pulses are too regular to be natural. It's almost like someone is scanning us. This news made Brooks uncomfortable. Earth scientists had always wondered if humans were alone in the universe. The discovery of alien life would be the most important event in human history, but it could also be the most dangerous. Keep monitoring those signatures, Brooks ordered, and prepare a full report for Captain Morrison. The 3rd human vessel, U.S. Endeavor, was commanded by Captain Ryan Clark. Clark was a veteran explorer who had led the first human mission to Jupiter's moons. He was known for his careful planning and attention to detail. Sir, we're receiving a priority message from the Freedom, reported his communications officer. Clark read the message about the unusual energy signatures. He immediately ordered his crew to increased alert status. Years of exploration had taught him that the universe was full of surprises, and not all of them were pleasant. The 3 human ships continued their journey through space, unaware that they were being watched by the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The aliens saw them as primitive creatures from an impossible world. The humans saw the vast emptiness of space and wondered what secrets it might hold. Neither side understood what was about to happen. The aliens thought they were dealing with another weak species that would quickly submit to their authority. The humans thought they were alone among the stars, exploring in peace. Both sides were about to learn how wrong they were. The galaxy was about to change forever, and nobody was prepared for what was coming next. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council first detected the human vessels. During that time, the mysterious ships had continued their exploration pattern, mapping star systems and collecting data. The Council's intelligence network had been working around the clock to gather more information about these unknown travelers. In the Council's war room, Admiral Kreshtar studied holographic displays, showing the movement patterns of the 3 human ships. His tactical advisors surrounded him, all trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Their formation is strange, observed Commander Zithker, pointing at the display with one of his clawed appendages. They maintain precise distances, but allow for independent movement. It suggests military training, but also scientific cooperation. Admiral Kreshtar growled thoughtfully. The Corvani Empire has dealt with hundreds of first-contact situations. These beings may be more organized than we initially assumed. High Chancellor Vexstar materialized beside them, his energy form flickering with concern. The Council has made a decision. We will initiate formal contact using standard diplomatic protocols. Captain Zethron has been selected to command the mission. Captain Zethron was the Corvani Empire's most experienced diplomat. Over his long career, he had successfully made first contact with 43 different species. His methods were tried and tested. Show superior technology. Demonstrate the consequences of resistance. Then offer peaceful integration into the Galactic Council, the diplomatic vessel. Harmony's voice was the finest ship in the Corvani fleet. It was designed to impress primitive species with its advanced technology. The ship could cloak itself, project powerful holographic displays, and deploy weapons that could destroy entire cities. Most importantly, it carried universal translators that could decode any language within hours. Captain Zethrin stood on the bridge of his ship as it moved toward the human vessels. His crew of 50 diplomatic specialists and military advisors worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew their role in the first contact procedure. Target acquired, reported Navigation Officer Kelsheen. 3 vessels moving in formation. Approximately 2,000 Earth units apart. Captain Zethrin studied the human ships on his viewing screen. They looked crude compared to Corvani technology. The hulls were made of simple metal alloys, and the propulsion systems appeared to be primitive fusion engines, yet something about their design suggested practical efficiency. Communications begin standard first contact protocols, Zethrin ordered. Transmit mathematical sequences followed by star charts. Let them know we are intelligent beings, seeking peaceful dialogue. On the bridge of the UES Liberty, Captain Morrison was reviewing supply reports when Lieutenant Amy Foster called out. From her station, "Captain, I'm receiving an unusual transmission on multiple frequencies," she announced. "It's definitely artificial, but not from any human source." Morrison felt his heart rate increase. This was the moment every space explorer both hoped for and feared. Put it on the main screen. The bridge fell silent as complex mathematical equations appeared on their display, followed by detailed star charts showing their current location. The implications were clear and unmistakable. Someone else was out here, someone intelligent, and they knew exactly where the human ships were located. "All hands. This is the captain," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "We have made contact with an unknown intelligence. All crew members report to stations." "This is not a drill." Lieutenant Ben Carter, the ship's tactical officer, was already running diagnostics on their weapons systems. "Sir, should I contact the Freedom and Endeavor? Do it. Patch me through to both commanders immediately." Within minutes, Morrison was speaking with Commander Brooks and Captain Clark through secure channels. All 3 human officers shared the same mixture of excitement and concern. "This is what we've been preparing for our entire careers," said Commander Brooks. "First contact with an alien species." Captain Clark was more cautious. "We need to be careful. We don't know their intentions or capabilities." The Harmony's voice continued broadcasting its mathematical messages for 30 minutes before Captain Zethrin decided to reveal his ship, according to standard protocol. This display of advanced cloaking technology usually impressed primitive species and established Corvani superiority. "Decloak the vessel," Zethrin commanded. "Begin holographic demonstration sequence." The massive alien ship materialized directly in front of the human formation. It was 3 times larger than any of the human vessels and covered in smooth, flowing curves that seemed to bend light around them. Strange energy patterns danced across its hull. On the Liberty's bridge, every crew member stared in amazement at the alien vessel. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "My God," whispered Dr. Susan Richards, the ship's chief scientist. "Look at the energy readings. Their power output is incredible." Captain Morrison maintained his calm exterior, but his mind was racing. The alien ship was clearly more advanced than anything humanity had built. If these beings were hostile, the human ships would be defenseless. Captain Zethrin activated the holographic projection system. According to Corvani diplomatic doctrine, showing examples of their military power would convince the primitive humans to surrender immediately. The holographic display showed images of destroyed starships, burning cities, and defeated alien armies. "Holographic sequence complete," reported his communications officer. "The primitive vessels should understand our message." But the humans interpreted the display very differently than the Corvani expected. Instead of seeing a demonstration of superior technology, they saw direct threats. The images of destroyed ships and conquered worlds looked like a warning of What would happen if they didn't surrender? On the Freedom's Bridge, Commander Brooks watched the alien holographs with growing alarm. They're showing us what they do to other species. Those are images of conquest and destruction. Lieutenant Foster on the Liberty was monitoring the alien ship's energy patterns. Captain, I'm detecting weapon systems charging. Multiple energy. Signatures are powering up. Morrison made a decision that would change galactic history. In his military training, he had learned that sometimes the best defense was a strong offense. If the aliens were preparing to attack, the human ships needed to act first. All ships, this is Liberty Actual. Morrison broadcast on the emergency frequency. We have hostile contact. An unknown vessel is charging weapons and broadcasting images. Of destroyed ships, all vessels are weapons-free. Pete, weapons-free. The response from the other human captains was immediate. Freedom copies. Moving to attack position, responded Commander Brooks. Endeavor ready. Initializing jamming protocols, replied Captain Clark. Captain Zethrin watched in amazement as the three primitive vessels suddenly changed their behavior. Instead of transmitting surrender messages or attempting to flee, they were spreading out in what looked like an attack formation. Impossible, Zethrin muttered. They should be overwhelmed by our display of power. Why are they not surrendering? His tactical officer, Commander Veltar, was studying the human ships with growing concern. Captain, their energy signatures are changing. I think they're preparing to fight us. Fight us, Zethron laughed. They are primitive beings with crude technology. Our shields can deflect any weapon they might possess. But the Corvani had never encountered weapons like the ones human ships carried. Earth's history of constant warfare had driven humanity to develop the most efficient killing tools possible. Their ships were armed with kinetic railguns that fired solid tungsten rods at tremendous speeds. The railguns used electromagnetic fields to accelerate metal projectiles to nearly 20% of light speed. They required enormous amounts of energy, but the results were devastating. The solid projectiles could punch through almost any material. Commander Brooks coordinated the attack from the Freedom. Liberty, take the center approach. Endeavor, circle around and jam their communications. He hit them from 3 angles simultaneously. Captain Clark's ship, the Endeavor, was equipped with the most advanced electronic warfare systems in the SEA. Human fleet. As his ship moved into position, he began broadcasting interference signals. Designed to disrupt the alien vessel's communications and sensors, the Harmony's voice suddenly found itself. Partially blind and unable to contact the Corvani fleet, Captain Zethron realized too late that he had seriously underestimated these strange beings. Shields up, defensive positions. Shh, he shouted, but the human attack was already beginning. The Liberty's railguns fired first. 6 tungsten rods each, weighing 50 kilograms, streaked across space at incredible speed. The Corvani energy shields were designed to deflect plasma beams and particle weapons. But they had never been tested against solid projectiles. The tungsten rods passed through the alien shields as if they weren't there and struck the Harmony's voice with tremendous force. The impact tore massive holes in the ship's hull and destroyed several critical systems. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, screamed the alien damage control officer. We're losing atmosphere. Captain Zethrin couldn't believe what was happening. In 43 previous first contact missions, no primitive species had ever attacked his ship. The very idea was unthinkable. The rescue operation took 4 hours to complete. Human medical teams worked alongside their alien counterparts to save as many Corvani crew members as possible. The damaged sections of the Harmony's voice were beyond repair, but the humans managed to stabilize the life support systems in the undamaged areas. Captain Morrison stood in the main cargo bay of the Liberty, watching as injured alien survivors were brought aboard. Each Corvani was over 7 feet tall, with blue scales and 4 arms. Their large black eyes showed fear and confusion as human medics treated their wounds. Dr. Susan Richards approached Morrison with her medical report. Captain, we've rescued 37 survivors out of the original crew of 50. Most of the injuries are from decompression and impact trauma. Their biology is similar enough to ours that our medical equipment works on them. Morrison nodded while studying the alien survivors. Any word from their captain? Captain Zethrin is in stable condition. He keeps asking to speak with you. Think he's trying to understand what happened. In the medical bay, Captain Zethron lay on a human hospital bed while Dr. Richards checked his vital signs. His body was covered in bandages, and one of his forearms was in a cast. Despite his injuries, his large eyes showed alert intelligence. "I must speak with your commander," Zethrin said through the universal translator device. His voice was weak, but determined. Dr. Richards looked up from her medical scanner. "Captain Morrison will be here shortly. You need to rest and let your body heal." "You don't understand," Zethrin insisted. "My ship was the finest diplomatic vessel in the Corvani fleet. We have never been defeated in a first contact situation. Your species is supposed to be primitive." Morrison entered the medical bay and pulled up a chair next to the alien captain's bed. He studied Zethrin's face, trying to read the emotions behind those large black eyes. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberty," he said calmly. "I'm sorry about your ship and crew. We thought you were preparing to attack us." Zethrin tried to sit up but winced from his injuries. "Attack you? We were following standard first contact protocols. Showed you images of our military capabilities to demonstrate the power of the Galactic Council." Morrison felt a cold realization wash over him. "You were trying to intimidate us into surrendering. Those images of destroyed ships and conquered worlds were meant to scare us." "Of course," Zethron replied, confused by the human's reaction. "That is how first contact always works. We show our superior technology, primitive species recognize our strength, and then peaceful negotiations begin."
Ow.
Morrison stood up and began. Pacing around the medical bay, "Captain Zethrin, I need you to understand something. Humans don't respond well to threats. When you showed us those images and powered up your weapons, we saw it as a declaration of war. You are a primitive species from an uninhabitable world," Zethrin protested. "Our scientists classified your planet as a Class 12 death world. Complex life shouldn't even exist there, let alone achieve spaceflight." Dr. Richards looked up from her medical equipment with interest. "What makes our world so dangerous in your classification system?" Zethrin's expression showed genuine confusion. "Everything about your planet should have killed you. Gravity's too strong, the weather's too violent, the predators are too numerous, the radiation is too intense. How did your species survive? Long enough to evolve intelligence?" Morrison smiled grimly. "We survived because we learned to fight. Every day on Earth is a battle against something trying to kill us. Whether animals, diseases, natural disasters, other humans. We've been fighting for millions of years." "Other humans?" Zethrin asked. "You fight members of your own species?" "We have wars," Morrison explained. "We've been killing each other with increasingly sophisticated weapons for thousands of years. It taught us to be very good at fighting." In another part of the ship, Commander Brooks was interrogating other Corvani survivors. She had set up a temporary interview room in the Liberty's conference center. Several alien crew members sat around the table, still wearing emergency breathing apparatus. "Tell me about the Galactic Council," Brooks requested. "Many species belong to your organization." Navigation Officer Kelshin answered first. His voice was nervous and uncertain. "The Council controls over 2,000 inhabited worlds. We have been expanding for 3,000 of your Earth years." "Expanding how?" Brooks pressed. "Do species join voluntarily?" The aliens exchanged uncomfortable glances. Communications. Officer Yarlan spoke up reluctantly. "Most species join after we demonstrate our superior capabilities. Those who refuse are convinced through other means." Brooks leaned forward with interest. "What kind of other means?" "Economic sanctions, blockades, sometimes military action," Kelshin admitted. "But it is always for the greater good of galactic civilization." Meanwhile, on the UES Endeavor, Captain Clark was examining pieces of wreckage from the alien ship. His engineering team had collected samples of the Corvani technology to study. Chief Engineer Mike Thompson worked with his team to analyze the alien materials. "Captain, this is incredible," Thompson reported. "Their whole material is some kind of self-repairing metal alloy. Energy conduits can carry 10 times more power than anything we have." Clark studied a piece of the alien metal under a microscope. "What about their weapons and shields?" "That's the interesting part," Thompson continued. Their weapons are designed to fight other energy-based systems. Plasma cannons, particle beams, electromagnetic pulse devices, but their shields are completely useless against solid projectiles. You mean our railguns? Exactly. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but it's specialized for a different kind of warfare. They've never encountered kinetic weapons before. Captain Clark nodded thoughtfully. It makes sense. If all the species in their galaxy use energy weapons, they would optimize their defenses accordingly. Back in the Liberty's medical bay, Captain Morrison continued his conversation with Zethran. The alien captain was becoming more alert as the human medical treatments took effect. I need to understand your species better, Morrison said. You said you've made contact with 43 different civilizations. How did those encounters usually go? Zethran's expression showed pride. Mixed with confusion, we would arrive with a diplomatic vessel, demonstrate our advanced technology, show the consequences of resistance, and offer membership in the Galactic Council. Most species saw the wisdom of joining us immediately, and those who didn't. The Corvani military would be called in to provide additional encouragement, but it rarely came to actual warfare. Most primitive species understand they cannot fight us. Morrison sat back in his chair. Captain Zethran, I don't think you understand what you're dealing with. You call us primitive, but we've survived on a world that would kill most of your species within hours. We've fought wars with weapons that can destroy entire continents. We've learned to work together despite our differences because the alternative is extinction. But your technology is inferior to ours, Zethran insisted. Our technology is different, Morrison corrected. We build things to work under the worst possible conditions. Our ships are designed to keep working even when half the systems are destroyed. Our weapons are made to kill efficiently with minimum resources. Dr. Richards approached with another medical report. Captain, I've finished examining all the survivors. Their species appears to be much more fragile than humans. Lower bone density, weaker immune systems, less tolerance for environmental stress. Morrison looked at the alien captain with new understanding. Captain Zethran, how many wars has your species fought? Wars? Zethran seemed confused by the question. The Corvani Empire has had minor conflicts with rebellious species, but we haven't fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Our technology makes us superior to any opposition. Till now, Morrison said quietly. The implications of this conversation were beginning to sink in for both humans and aliens. The Galactic Council had built their empire by intimidating species that had never experienced real warfare. They had advanced technology, but they had forgotten how to fight against an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Commander Brooks joined. It's Morrison in the medical bay with her interrogation report. Captain, I think we have a problem. According to the survivors, the Corvani Empire has a fleet of over 5,000 warships. When this diplomatic vessel doesn't report back, they're going to send a military force to investigate, Morrison felt, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. 3 human ships with 600 crew members were now at war with an empire that controlled 2,000 worlds. How long before they expect the Harmony's voice to report back? Morrison asked Zethran. The alien captain looked uncomfortable. We're scheduled to make contact in 3 of your Earth days. When we fail to report, Admiral Kreshtar will dispatch a battle fleet to this location. Captain Clark's voice came over the communication system. Captain Morrison, please report to the bridge immediately. We're detecting multiple energy signatures. Approaching our position, Morrison and Brooks hurried to the Liberty's bridge. The main viewing screen showed long-range sensor readings that made Morrison's blood run cold. 12 large objects were approaching at faster-than-light speeds.
Right.
Long until they arrive? Morrison asked. The Corvani battle fleet arrived exactly when their computers predicted. 12 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation. Each vessel was twice the size of the destroyed diplomatic ship and bristled with energy weapons. Admiral Kreshtar stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign's Wrath. His 4 arms worked the control panels while his tactical display showed the wreckage of the Harmony's voice floating in space. The 3 primitive human vessels maintained defensive positions around the debris field. Tactical analysis, Admiral Kreshtar demanded from his weapons officer commander. Veltar studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Sir, the enemy vessels are much smaller than expected. Combined, they have less than 1/10 our firepower. I'm reading primitive fusion engines in simple metal hulls. Then how did they destroy Captain Zethran's ship? The admiral growled. Unknown. Sir, the damage patterns are unlike anything in our database. It appears the Harmony's voice was struck by solid objects moving at extremely high speeds. Admiral Kreshtar laughed with contempt. Solid objects? These primitives are using kinetic weapons? How barbaric. The bridge of the Liberty, Captain Morrison watched the alien fleet through his main viewing screen. The enemy ships were beautiful and terrifying. Their hulls seemed to glow with internal energy, and strange patterns of light flowed across their surfaces. 12 ships, Morrison counted grimly, each one bigger than all 3 of our vessels combined. Commander Brooks appeared on the communication. Screen from the Freedom. Jake, we're outnumbered 4-1. Maybe we should try talking to them first. Captain Clark's voice came from the Endeavor. I agree with Brooks. We have their survivors. Maybe we can negotiate, Morrison considered their options. The smart move would be to surrender or retreat. But looking at his crew, he saw the same determination he felt in his own heart. These aliens had come to their space with threats and violence. Humanity had never backed down from a fight, even against impossible odds. Open a channel to the alien fleet, Morrison ordered. Lieutenant Foster worked her controls. Channel open, Captain. Unknown vessels. This is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Liberty. We have rescued survivors from your diplomatic vessel. We offered to return them in exchange for peaceful dialogue. Admiral Kreshtar received the transmission and sneered at the primitive attempt at negotiation. Humans, he said with disgust. That is what they call themselves. Dr. Morden's biological reports were correct.
Oh.
They are indeed from the Sol 3 Deathworld. The Admiral activated his fleet communication system. This is Admiral Kreshtar to all ships. These primitive beings destroyed a Council diplomatic vessel. They must be punished according to Galactic law. Commander Veltar looked uncertain. Sir, they are offering to return our survivors. Perhaps we should consider their proposal. Never. Admiral Kreshtar snarled. The Corvini Empire does not negotiate with primitives. We will demonstrate why the Council has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. The Admiral opened a communication channel to the human ships. Humans of Sol 3, you have committed an act of war against the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be swift. On the Liberty's bridge, Morrison listened to the alien ultimatum with growing anger. That's their idea of negotiation. Surrender or die? Dr. Richards, who had been treating the alien survivors, approached Morrison with a worried expression. Captain, I've been talking with Captain Zethran. He says this Admiral Kreshtar has never lost a battle. The Corvani fleet has weapons that can destroy entire planets. Morrison activated his ship's communication system to address all 3 human vessels. All hands, this is Captain Morrison. The enemy fleet is demanding our surrender. They believe their superior numbers and advanced technology make victory certain. He paused, letting his words sink in across the 3 ships. They don't understand that humans have been fighting impossible battles for our entire history. Every time someone said we couldn't win, we proved them wrong. Every time the odds were against us, we found a way to survive. On the Endeavor, Chief. Engineer Mike Thompson was working frantically to modify their weapon systems. His team had studied the wreckage from the first alien ship and learned valuable information about Corvani technology. Captain Clark, I think I know how to hurt them, Thompson reported. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, but our railguns fire solid projectiles. If we can increase the velocity, we can punch through anything they have. Captain, Clark studied Thompson's modifications. What do you need? 6 hours, and all the power we can spare from non-essential systems. I can boost our railgun velocity by 30%. Similar modifications were being made on all 3 human ships. The crews worked with desperate efficiency, knowing that their lives depended on gaining every possible advantage. Admiral Kreshtar grew impatient with the humans. Lack of response to his ultimatum. Communications. Have the primitives replied to our demands? No response, sir. They appear to be making modifications to their vessels. Modifications? Admiral Kreshtar found this amusing. What could they possibly do to improve their primitive technology? Commander Veltar studied the sensor readings more carefully. Sir, I'm detecting increased energy flow to their weapon systems. They appear to be preparing for battle. Excellent, the Admiral declared. It has been too long since the fleet has seen real combat. All ships battle formation. We will destroy these primitives quickly and continue our patrol. The 12 Corvani warships moved into an attack formation that had been proven successful. In hundreds of previous battles, it would surround the enemy vessels and destroy them with overwhelming firepower. But Admiral Kreshtar had never fought an enemy like humanity before. Captain Morrison coordinated the defense from the Liberty's command center. Brooks, take the Freedom and circle behind their formation. Clark, the Endeavor, will provide electronic warfare support. Liberty will take the center position and draw their fire. That's suicide, Jake, Commander Brooks protested. They'll concentrate all their firepower on you. That's the idea, Morrison replied grimly. While they're shooting at us, you and Clark can hit them from unexpected angles. The human battle plan was based on centuries of military experience fighting against superior numbers. Mobility, unpredictability, and concentrated firepower could sometimes overcome technological disadvantages. Admiral. Kreshtar watched the human ships scatter into different positions and laughed. Look at them run. They're trying to escape, but they're too slow, Sir Commander Veltar reported. Their movement pattern is unusual. It's not a retreat formation. Of course it is, the Admiral insisted. Primitives always panic when faced. With superior force, the battle began when the Liberty opened fire on the closest Corvani warship. The modified railguns launched tungsten projectiles at incredible speed. The alien ship's shields flared as they tried to stop the solid rounds. But the kinetic energy was too great. The first projectile punched a hole through the alien ship's hull. The second destroyed their primary weapons array. Third penetrated their power core and caused a massive explosion. Admiral Kreshtar watched in shock as one of his finest warships was crippled in seconds. Impossible. Their weapons are too primitive to penetrate our shields. Sir, they're using kinetic projectiles moving at 30% light speed. Commander Veltar reported with growing alarm. Our shields can't stop solid matter at those velocities. Before the Admiral could respond, the Freedom and Endeavor attacked from different angles. Their coordinated assault destroyed 2 more Corvani ships within minutes. All ships evasive. Maneuvers, Admiral Kreshtar shouted. Focus fire on the center vessel. The remaining 9 alien ships concentrated their energy weapons on the Liberty. Plasma beams and particle cannons lit up space as they hammered Morrison's ship.
I'll bless the human.
Vessel's armor began to glow red-hot under the intense assault. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5, reported Lieutenant Carter. We're losing atmosphere. Emergency power to shields. Morrison ordered. All non-essential crew to emergency stations. But the Liberty's sacrifice was not in vain. Corvani fleet focused on destroying Morrison's ship. Brooks and Clark continued their attacks. The Freedom destroyed another enemy vessel with a precisely targeted railgun shot to their reactor core. The Endeavor used its electronic warfare systems to blind to more Corvani ships, then destroyed them with close-range attacks before they could restore their sensors in less than 20 minutes. The mighty Corvani battle fleet had been reduced to 6 operational vessels. Admiral Kreshtar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How is this possible? He whispered. The most advanced military force in the galaxy? Commander Veltar's voice was grim. Sir, I recommend immediate retreat. These humans are not like any enemy we've encountered before. Retreat, Admiral Kreshtar roared. The Corvani Empire does not retreat from primitives. But even as he spoke, another of his ships exploded under human fire. The Deathworlders were systematically destroying his fleet with tactics he had never seen before, on the badly damaged Liberty. Captain Morrison struggled to stay conscious as smoke filled the bridge. Half his crew was injured and his ship was barely operational. They were still fighting. 6 months had passed since the Battle of the Outer Rim, the news of humanity's victory over the Corvani. Fleet had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. In the deepest corners of council space, oppressed species whispered stories about the Deathworlders, who had defeated the Empire's finest ships. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 2,000 worlds argued loudly while emergency reports flooded in from across their territory. Rebellion was spreading like wildfire, and the Council's authority was crumbling. High Chancellor Vextar struggled to maintain order as his energy form flickered with stress. "Silence," he commanded, his voice echoing through the massive hall. "We must address these uprisings systematically." Ambassador Zelthax stood at his podium, holding a datapad filled with disturbing reports. "Honored council members, we face unprecedented challenges. 17 star systems have declared independence in the past month. Rebellion is spreading faster than our military can respond. How is this possible?" demanded Fleet Admiral Kethfer of the Hegemony Forces. "These species have been peaceful members of the Council for centuries." Dr. Morden's tentacles writhed nervously as he accessed his intelligence reports. "The humans have been making contact with various species across our territory. They're not demanding tribute or territory. Instead, they're teaching military tactics and offering something far more dangerous." "What could be more dangerous than advanced weapons?" asked Counselor Yithrin. "Hope," Dr. Morden replied grimly. "They're teaching other species that the Council can be defeated." Meanwhile, in a secret meeting on the planet Zarian Prime, Captain Morrison sat across from leaders of 12 different alien species. His injuries from the battle had healed, but his left arm was still in a mechanical brace. The conference room was hidden deep underground, away from Council surveillance. Warlord Thakal of the Zarian Resistance was a massive creature covered in thick armor plates. His species had been conquered by the Council 200 years ago, and they had never forgotten their freedom. Captain Morrison Thackle rumbled in his deep voice, "Your victory against the Corvani fleet has inspired our people. But we need more than inspiration. We need weapons and training." Morrison looked around the table at the assembled alien leaders. Each species was different, but they all shared the same desperate hope for freedom. "We can't give you advanced human technology, but we can teach you how to fight smart instead of fighting fair." Lieutenant Colonel Sam Rodriguez, who had arrived with reinforcements from Earth, stood up to address the group. He was a veteran of Earth's special forces and an expert in guerrilla warfare. "The Council's military is designed to fight conventional battles against inferior opponents," Rodriguez explained. "They expect you to meet them in open space with inferior ships and lose quickly. Don't do what they expect." He activated a holographic display showing various tactical scenarios. "Hit their supply lines, not their warships. Attack their communication networks, not their bases. Make them afraid to send small patrols, but don't give them big targets to destroy." Zexera, the elegant leader of the Crystalline Coalition, leaned forward with interest. Her species resembled living gemstones that reflected light in beautiful patterns. "These tactics sound dishonorable. We have always fought with courage and dignity. Dignity doesn't win wars against superior numbers," Morrison replied gently. "My species learned that lesson the hard way. Sometimes survival requires doing things that seem wrong." Over the following weeks, human advisors spread across rebel-controlled space. They taught alien resistance fighters how to build improvised weapons from common materials, how to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems, and most importantly, how to think like predators instead of prey. Commander Lisa Brooks had established a training camp on the moon of Carthax 7. She worked with volunteers from 6 different species, teaching them basic military tactics. The key to fighting the Council, Brooks explained to her mixed group of alien students, is to remember that they've never faced real opposition. They're used to winning through intimidation and superior technology. They take away those advantages, and they don't know how to fight. Her students included Velkai, a young member of the telepathic Mindari people, and Groktar, a warrior from the powerful but enslaved Titan race. Despite their different biologies, they all learned to work together under human guidance. The Council's response to the growing rebellion was predictable but ineffective. They sent larger fleets to crush the resistance, but the rebels had learned to avoid direct confrontation. Council ships would arrive at rebel worlds only to find empty space. In booby traps, High Chancellor Vextar called another emergency session as reports continued to pour in. Admiral Kethfer, what is the status of our pacification efforts? The Admiral's expression was grim. We've lost contact with 47 patrol fleets in the past month. The rebels are using hit-and-run tactics that we've never encountered. Before they strike without warning and disappear before our reinforcements arrive. These are primitive species, Vextar protested. How can they outsmart our military? Ambassador Zelthak stepped forward with the answer everyone feared to hear. They're not fighting alone anymore. Human advisors are coordinating the rebellion. They're teaching other species to fight like Deathworlders. Captain Ryan Clark had taken command of a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels operating in the Sigma Quadrant. His force included captured Council ships that had been modified with human weapon systems. The combination of alien technology and human tactics was proving devastatingly effective. Target confirmed, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Jenny Walsh. Council supply convoy, 12 freighters with 4 escort vessels. Clark studied the enemy formation on his display. Remember, we're not trying to destroy everything. Capture what we can, disable the rest. These supplies will help feed refugee populations. The attack was swift and precise. Human railguns disabled the escort ships, while alien energy weapons forced the freighters to surrender. Within an hour, the rebel fleet had captured enough food and medical supplies to support 3 refugee camps for months. But more importantly, word of the raid spread throughout Council space. The rebels were not just fighting for freedom. They were also protecting civilians and sharing resources. This generosity confused the Council, who had always believed that conquest was the only reason for warfare. News of the rebellion reached Earth through carefully hidden communication channels. President Sarah Coleman called an emergency meeting of Earth's military leaders to discuss humanity's role in the growing galactic conflict. General Martinez, President Coleman asked, "What's our assessment of the situation?" Martinez studied the intelligence reports from across the galaxy. "Madam President, our people out there have started something incredible. Dozens of species are fighting for their freedom, and they're winning battles against impossible odds. What are our casualties? Surprisingly light. The humans in the field have been smart about avoiding direct confrontation with superior forces. They're fighting a strategic war instead of a tactical one." Admiral Helen Price, recently promoted to command Earth's growing space fleet, provided the naval perspective. "We have 17 ships operating in various parts of rebel space, serving as advisors and coordinators rather than frontline combat units. President Coleman made a decision that would change human history forever. I'm authorizing full support for the rebellion. These species are fighting for the same freedom our ancestors fought for. We can't abandon them now." 6 months later, the Galactic Council found themselves in an impossible position. Over half their territory was an open rebellion. Their military was stretched beyond breaking point. Their authority was collapsing everywhere. The final blow came when the planet Corvani Prime, capital world of the Empire, declared its independence and requested human assistance. The species that had once ruled the galaxy through fear and intimidation were now begging for protection from their former subjects. "High Chancellor." Vextar stood before the assembled council representatives, his energy form dim and flickering. "With exhaustion, fellow council members, we face a choice. We can continue fighting a war we cannot win, or we can accept the reality of our situation." Ambassador Zelthax looked around the nearly empty chamber. Most species had already withdrawn from the council to join the rebellion. "What do you propose, High Chancellor?" "Negotiation," Vextar replied quietly. "The humans have requested a meeting to discuss terms for a galactic peace treaty." The peace negotiations took place on the neutral world of Haven's Rest. Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, led the human delegation. Beside him sat representatives from 43 different species that had joined the rebellion. Across the negotiating table, the remnants of the Galactic Council struggled to maintain their dignity in defeat. High Chancellor Vextar had survived the collapse of his empire, but his energy form was pale and weak. Admiral Morrison, Vexstar began. What are your terms? Morrison looked around the room at the diverse group of beings who had fought for their freedom.